Around the world, 1 in 3 women, including minors, have experienced sexual assault, and around 1/3 of women who get raped contemplate suicide. Additionally, rape is the most underreported crime, and about 63% of sexual assaults are not reported, and only 12% of child sexual abuse is reported. In 2020, Texas, Florida, and California had the highest cases reported in the U.S. This is because the media normalizes violence, and this usually leads to men forcing themselves upon others. This has started since 1492, and it still continues today.
We are dedicated to protecting children and minors, specifically females, from sexual harassment. We sincerely hope to accomplish educating our viewers on the different resources and hopefully prevent this problem.
In this episode, we will be discussing sexual violence statistics and overall information regarding the topic. I am Jocelyn.
And I'm Wendy.
And we are Her Story. Starting off with local statistics, both Wendy and I are from Southgate, California, and here are some local statistics. Southgate has a population of approximately 94,000, and in 2019, law enforcement was notified of 21 rape cases and 418 aggravated assault cases.
It's interesting to see how Southgate, even though it has such a considerably low population rate, so many of these cases are happening, which shows how this is affecting literally everyone and how this is such a big problem in our society.
Southgate is located around, if not in the LA area, so local statistics will also take into consideration Southgate, LA, and most likely California in general. Per 100,000 population, the rape rate increased 8.6% in 2021, from 33.8% to 36.7% in a year. In California, more than 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 report experience sexual violence in their lifetime. The estimated cost per rape victim is $122,461 over their lifetime. From 2021 to 2023, a total of 13,723 rape crimes were reported and only 1,776 arrests were reported. Wendy, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, it's really sad to see how disproportionate the numbers are. So there's about 13K rape crimes reported and only a little less than 2,000 arrests, which really shows how our justice system isn't really executing the justice that it should be. And I think that's a really huge problem in all of this.
As of 2020, there were 1,983 rapes reported in LA. But due to fear of backlash and retaliations, sexual assault is extremely underreported. We will discuss the numbers in that later on. But in general, as of 2020, there were 1,983 rapes reported in LA. Due to fear of backlash and retaliation, sexual assault is extremely underreported. And here in California, 1 in 3 female rape victims are ages 11 to 17.
So now we're going to go over some of the national statistics which cover the United States as a whole. And one of these facts include that some of the industries that are more likely to suffer from this problem are accommodation and food services, retail trade, manufacturing, and healthcare, anywhere from 11 to 14% in these industries.
I think it's quite ironic how the healthcare system is one of the industries where sexual violence is more rampant. Especially because the whole point of the health system is to care for people, to protect them from certain health conditions. But it's people can still be in danger there and can still get hurt in different ways.
From the years 1997 to 2021, there have been 305,000 cases of sexual harassment, and this shows how this problem, over time, it just keeps getting worse. The amount of total cases reported in a year is a little bit less than 100,000, which is a really high number because a lot of these cases, yes, those are reported, but I feel there's so many more that are not reported.
Especially because, due to, social and public stigma, sexual assault is, I believe, off the top of my head, one of the most underreported crimes.
Some of the top states that have been accused with the most charges include Texas, Florida, New York, Illinois, California, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Indiana, and Arizona.
I wonder, why that is, because Are some of those states considered like conservative?
Not really.
Not really.
I know Texas, yeah. Illinois, I'm not really sure.
Well, to be fair, like we do know that like a lot of cases are not reported, and I feel like you hear so many stories about how like in churches and all that, that's like a lot of sexual violence can happen there too, especially to children. And especially like in conservative areas, I feel like in order to like not face like public backlash, you, especially like families, don't report it. So I wonder if that like has to do. But like the states you just mentioned are like states I feel like where it's more urban and there's like a lot more city. So I wonder what that says about like safety.
For the states mentioned, I wonder if these have the highest cases reported, because I feel like the majority, if not at least half of these states, I feel like are a lot more democratic and more in like the liberal party, and because of that, women feel like they feel more comfortable reporting because they know that like their rights are going to be like backed up and such, compared to like other more conservative states. I wonder if that's maybe the issue.
Oh, I see what you were saying. Yeah, maybe like the system here is more like, I feel like here in LA, I feel like sometimes it can be like, or maybe anywhere truly, it can be like a 50-50 of whether or not, especially like considering what police officer you get, like depending on that, they may or may not help you. Because I know there was this like girl that like came out about her story saying how like when she went to go report how she was like raped by her like boyfriend at the time, she reported it here, like in the LA area. And at first, like the first police officer that she talked to didn't take her seriously. And then when she went back, the second time she went, there was a different police officer and he actually decided to help her. So my point is, I just feel like it's really up to like who decides to take your case and whether or not they're going to take it seriously or not.
I wonder if this also has to do with how our justice system in general, how the majority of times it's like men who take up your case, and we live in a society where like a lot of it is like patriarchal.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It just comes down to men, because what are the chances? Like, it might sound funny, but it's the truth. Because like if you ask like especially teenagers like who they feel most comfortable in a room in, they're gonna tell you they feel more comfortable being in a room with like a woman rather than a man. Like, that's just the truth. Because like especially on social media, I feel like it's so normalized for like men to like joke about like rape and like sexually assaulting like people. I don't know. Especially on TikTok, I feel like there's like so many like men who, or sometimes it's teenagers, I feel like too, that like it's so normalized to like just comment threats to another user for no reason sometimes too. Maybe it just comes down to like normalization and social norms in our society.
I feel like these societal norms are mostly based on people's lack of empathy, especially men, because a lot of men are raised to think that, oh, the woman is supposed to do everything for them, this and that, and I feel like a lot of times they don't respect women, which I feel like is seen in society a lot more nowadays.
I feel like it's generational, if that makes sense. Especially because I feel like it could either be especially the mom or the dad, or sometimes even both, that like
they contribute to this mentality where men are like given everything.
Yeah, because like it can especially be true in like Latino culture, I feel like, where it's like mothers are like, mi hijo no, or something like that. Like they refuse to believe like
their son has done anything bad, and they just always protect the man of the house, even though he's quite guilty, just because he's a man.
Yeah, or even just sometimes moms in general. It's like boy moms. I know that's like a whole topic, but that I feel like also has a lot to do. It's just something generational that's passed down, and I feel like it's more in like, not conservative, but like, because I feel like when we think conservative, we think like religion, but like conservative can mean like a bunch of other things too. So I feel like it's just these families that like pass down these values of like not treating women properly and like dehumanizing them. That's just like been passed down through generations, and that can be dangerous when it's, for example, someone in power who believes in these ideals and then will again pass those down onto like its citizens. Because if you think about it, especially men, when they see like someone in power has like committed all these crimes and like believes in all these ideals, and in this case regarding women, it validates their feelings, it validates men's behavior, like negative behavior towards women.
I feel like it also makes them lose respect for women, which is like a really big part of this, because they're just, as you said, humanized.
Yeah, I feel if respect is like such a big thing, it can like mean so many things, because if you respect someone, you obviously treat them better, and if you don't respect them, like obviously you're not gonna like treat them properly, and yeah, like I said, you're gonna dehumanize them. And if men obviously don't respect women, they're gonna end up doing all these like horrific things towards them, because they don't see them as people with feelings that can get hurt. They just see them as like items that they can use and then just dispose of. Another like national statistic is that every 68 seconds another American is sexually assaulted. And I would also like to add that college campuses, like sexual assault, accounts for 43% of total on-campus crimes in the US.
I just find it how interesting it is that colleges have like one of the highest sexual assault rates, because the whole point of college is to like be educated, and that doesn't really show that the people like going to these schools have any education to begin with, or at least any like sort of regard for women, which is like really messed up.
I feel
really
like
bad.
College in itself, like everyone knows this, that it's like this big accomplishment, like it's higher education, not anyone can get it. And I feel like in a way it kind of just shows, like, again, if you're going to college, you're getting a higher education to, I guess, earn more money, but like it's like a stepping stone, if that makes sense.
You go to college because it's like, oh, education and like academics, right? But then again, the people who attend it, they're so uneducated on other aspects that like, what's the point of going to college if you're not really educated?
And I also feel like this kind of just shows that like you would think that like a college campus at that point would be one of the most safest places you can be, because all the people are mature, you would think, once you're in college, and it would be a safe place because you would be like, I wouldn't have to worry as much about any type of violence, even sexual violence, because you feel like you're in a place where everyone is educated and everyone is mature enough to not do anything. But yet these crimes are still like happening, and it's not like a little, it's like frequent too. That just kind of shows how, I guess, messed up our society is, and even like our education system. Another national statistic, rape is the most underreported crime, with 63% of sexual assaults are not reported, which is more than half, and then only 12% of child sexual abuse is reported.
And we can really take this into consideration. So like, for example, nationally there's a little bit less than 500,000, but since so much of it is underreported, if you basically just double that number and it's almost just 1 million.
Because if you take that into consideration, there are over 433,000 cases of sexual assault or rape annually in the US. That isn't even like half of the cases that we know, because if 63% of sexual assaults are not reported, then we basically, this number that we claim to have is realistically only about like 37%. And if you were to like multiply that number, what about like doubling it or even tripling it, it would be 1 million. And then not only that, sexual abuse towards children isn't even that much reported. It's only 12%. That's less than half of rape in general for like adults. And you would think like people would protect their children more, still like so underreported.
I feel like the reason why it's so underreported is because parents don't believe their children, or they just dismiss it altogether. So it's like they basically just don't care about their children, aware of like what's happening.
And also because it's something my parents tell me a lot, and it's the fact that sexual violence, especially like with children, it's almost like never gonna be someone you don't know. It's but like mostly always gonna be like someone in the family or like someone you already know. Like I've heard stories of sometimes it being like your very own brother, like related brother. It's not even like step brother, like your brother or your dad. I've heard sometimes your uncle, cousins, and family friends. And I think sometimes, like you said, parents choose to not believe their children because
they're like, oh, how could a family member ever do that to my child? Like, that's insane.
And that just also shows how like children are the ones you're supposed to protect the most, and the portion of the population that supposedly the U.S. wants to protect the most, and yet
It's the most like vulnerable.
the most vulnerable, and they're like facing things they shouldn't be experiencing in the first place. And to top off national statistics, 91% of victims are female and 99% of perpetrators are male.
This just really shows how men are like the problem of all this. Not to be like, oh, you just blaming men, and no, it's backed by actual statistics. And I feel like the reason why it's so high, it's again because society just lets them, and because it's so normalized that they're like doing this to women.
And it's, again, goes back to like these conservative values of, oh, men could never do this. Because I feel like a lot of men, and sometimes even women, you refuse to like believe these statistics, because sure, you'll hear it's not all men, but like when you see these statistics and you see like all these stories, it can scare you, and it can just like disappoint you too.
It can also make you like just lose your trust in men just in general with all of the cases that have been reported.
And that's not even considering like all the crimes that haven't been reported, which again, 63% of sexual assaults are not reported. So now we're going to go over global statistics. So globally, 1 in 3 women have experienced physical and or sexual violence at least once in their life. And globally, about 13% of women ages 15 to 49 have experienced physical or sexual violence by an intimate male partner. Additionally, intimate partner and sexual violence are mostly perpetrated by men against women, and as many as 38% of all murders of women are committed by intimate partners.
I also find it really sad how most of the women who suffer from this experience are literally just children. They're from like 15 to 49, but I know that a lot of them occur like 15 and like early 20s, and that's just like really sad to see. And also because since they're 15 and they're really young, they just get taken advantage of because they don't really know any better, and they don't really have any like real world experience or like anyone to guide them to be like, oh, if like this and this happens to you, you should report it.
Or don't do that, or
Yeah.
don't do this. We're gonna go over the last few statistics we have on here to wrap things up. Gender inequality and norms on the acceptability of violence against women are a root of cause of violence against women. Sexual assault can cause women to fatal injuries, substance abuse, and mental disorders. And to kind of wrap things up, 1 in 5 girls/women have been subjected to sexual violence as children. 6% of women, 15 to 49, have been subjected to sexual violence by a non-partner. So before it was like 13% by an intimate male partner, and now it's like non-partner, it's like 6%. And I think that might be including women perpetrators, but I'm not sure.
One of the global statistics is that 35% of women worldwide have experienced sexual violence, which shows how it's just a really big issue, not just in the US, but quite literally everywhere. And it's like a lot more common in countries that are more conservative or poorer countries. Because I have another fact that says some of the countries with the highest rates of sexual assault include South Africa, Botswana, Lesotho, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. And I feel like this is due to a lot of these countries being periphery countries.
But when you typically hear about these countries, don't they even have, some of these countries have like laws that like allow like
Minors to get
marriage?
married.
Yeah. And I think that just like says a lot. It's not even like the people, it's like the laws that like allow this type of behavior to like happen.
I feel like it's typically with more conservative countries again, and like their laws and how they just, because they're countries that are not as advanced or as progressive as, let's say, the United States. I feel like they suffer a lot more from these cases since women are typically seen as just like objects really in those countries. And I'm not saying that they're not viewed as objects here too, but
it's like more like validated over there.
It's more normalized in those countries
because of the laws and like traditions they have too, that like make it so like women are treated as objects and accessories. It's kind of like how back then it was like depending on like what wife you had or how your wife was, it kind of just like, it was kind of like a trophy you can flaunt around, if that makes sense. This article, like by the Business Standard, with the countries with the highest rape incidents, it says the top 10, apparently. Number 1 being South Africa, and it says here South Africa has the highest rape rate in the world of 132.4, some 66,196 incidents in per 100,000 people. That's like almost 70% right there.
We could basically just round it to 70%, which means like if you were to get a group of 10 women, 7 of them have gone through rape.
According to a survey conducted by the South African Medical Research Council, approximately 1 in 4 men surveyed admitted to committing rape. 1 in 4 men. That's actually crazy. And it's not like they probably just committed it once. They probably committed it a lot. Isn't South Africa isn't it predominantly white Africans? Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I swear when I went to a university on the East Coast, there was we got our tour guide. He said he was from South Africa and he was white.
I think it's because you know how the what's it called, the thing in Murray where it's oh, everybody gets a piece of Africa or whatever. Yeah,
because I'm pretty sure even at some point South Africa had segregation between white Africans and black Africans. I don't know if it was specifically in South Africa. I just know it was somewhere in Africa. And we went over it through world history where there was segregation of white Africans and then black Africans. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. It may or may not.
I wonder if race has anything to do with the amount of cases, or if it's just universally the same in all types of men, no matter their race.
Men, I feel probably white people. I don't know if that sounds wrong, but it probably is because of their views. But it's not even that. I feel it's the victims that the race really varies. And I feel the whole thing about it being underreported can also have a lot to do where people don't have as many resources. For example, here in the United States, I know there's a lot of violence against Native Americans, and they might not have as much access to resources to report it. Isn't it there's a lot of sexual violence against Native Americans here in the US? Yeah, and there's even movement that try to do try to not solve the issue, but at least
this kind of it's maybe a little bit off topic, but I feel it still has to do with the same deal. I saw a video the other day.
Yes.
It was a land where you wouldn't be prosecuted here in America, and they basically said in the Native American reservations. And so let's say you're a foreigner, and let's say, for example, you rape someone or you kill someone. The courts of the Native Americans can't prosecute you because you're a foreigner, and they can't trial foreigners. And the federal government can't pursue you either, because the federal government, when making the reservations, they gave them rights to be okay, you rule yourselves. And so basically a lot of Native Americans, because of that rule, a lot of foreigners tend to rape a lot of Native American women, or kidnap them or kill them and stuff, and they traffic them a lot. And I think, if I remember correctly, there's about 5,000 missing Native Americans. I think it's primarily women or children that have gone missing in the US and haven't been able to be prosecuted because of that law, or how that system is set up in place in that region.
Kind of just shows that they're not protected at all, and the system once again fails them. Going over through this list, so South Africa had a paragraph dedicated to it. So the top 10 countries are the ones you already said. Botswana is the second with a rate of rape 92.9 and 1,865 incidents in per 100,000 people. That's actually a significant downgrade from South Africa. It went from 66,000 per 100,000, and then Botswana, it's just 2,000 basic. It's still bad, but it's the fact that it's such a significant change is crazy. I wonder what that says though.
I wonder if the laws there are just really badly enforced, or why does it happen so often?
Yeah, because the laws are different. It's still shocking. So that's about all the time we have today. I think that was a wonderful discussion, and I think we covered a lot, and I hope you guys are educated and more informed on the topic of sexual violence, especially against women. I would like to give thanks to all the sources and articles we used. I did list some of the sources that I used, one of them being by CDC dph.ca.gov, Injury and Violence Prevention Branch. Data Open Justice, California Gov, which listed the crime in California in 2023. The Clark Employment Law with California Workplace Sexual Harassment Statistics. RAIN.org with Scope of the Problem statistics specifically in the sexual violence category. A lot of sexual violence statistics. CharlieHealth.com, How Common is Sexual Assault. Data.unwomen.org, Global Database on Violence Against Women. And data.unicef.org, Child Protection. And again, thank you to all the sources that listed all the statistics that we were able to find to provide to you guys. And as always, starting now, we will have a link in the description for a Google form. If you would like to, you can share your anonymous story regarding your experience as a victim and survivor of sexual violence. Obviously, if you feel comfortable doing so, then share your story so we may share it. There's a consent form and it's optional if you want to share your name. And if you wish to be a guest on the podcast so we may interview you, then you may put your contact information there too, but again, optional. And yeah, thank you. And also thank you to the people that listened to this episode. Thank you for sticking around, I guess, to inform yourself and educate yourself on this topic.
In our next episode, we will be discussing about how the system and structural failures have caused this in the first place. If you want to help our cause, you can follow our podcast for future episodes.